Hello and welcome to Midday Prime. Over the next 1 hour, we will take you through the major news developments in India and the world. We will tell you about what to expect from the third edition of the Indo-US 2+2 dialogue and how the resurgence of COVID-19 cases is taking place in Europe and what is the second wave there, which is bigger than the first one. All that and more in this edition of Midday Prime. I'm Munmun Bhattacharya. Let's get started with the big news at this hour. Campaigning further gains momentum. Leaders of all political parties hold rallies on the last day of campaigning for the first phase of Bihar elections. Counting of votes underway for Ladakh Autonomous Hill Development Council, Leh. Over 54,000 people have exercised their franchise. U.S. Secretary of State and Defense arrive in New Delhi for the third India-US 2+2 dialogue tomorrow. Bilateral, regional and global issues of mutual interest on the agenda. Prime Minister Narendra Modi to inaugurate India Energy Forum Sera Week today will also interact with global oil and gas CEOs and experts through video conference. Another landmark achievement for India. Recovery rate leaps past 90%. Over 71 lakh patients cured and discharged so far. Lewis Hamilton wins Portuguese Grand Prix, writes F1 history, breaks Michael Schumacher's record wins tally. Let's now get started with the big news at this hour. And that's news coming from poll-bound Bihar, where campaigning for the first phase of polling is going to end today. So like I said, campaigning for the first phase of assembly elections in 71 assembly constituencies spread over 16 districts will end this evening. Polling for the first phase will be held on the 28th of October. In the first phase, BJP is contesting on 29 seats, JDU on 35. Hindustani Awam Morcha from 6 assembly seats. The Vikassheel Insaan Party has fielded only one candidate, and on the other hand, in the Grand Alliance, RJD is contesting from 42 seats, while Congress has fielded 21 candidates. LJP, BSP, RLSP and Jan Adhikar Party have also fielded their nominees. Out of 71, several constituencies are affected by Naxal violence and sensitive from the security point of view. Election Commission has made elaborate arrangements for free and fair polling. So today is the last day for campaigning for the first phase of assembly elections. Elections there are going to be held on the 28th of October. And now correspondent Yogesh Sheetal is joining us from Bihar on all the poll buzz. Yogesh, we've seen how barbs have flown thick and fast between the two sides, between NDA as well as the Grand Alliance. What would you say were the major campaign issues from both sides ahead of phase one?
In place, and also a lot of new laws have been enacted. So definitely this will be an easy test for all the big parties, because all the national issues have been discussed in all the rallies by all the parties across the parties, and especially coming to NDA. NDA has been maintaining since day one. The rally was started. The first rally was held by JP Nadda in Gaya, and since day one the NDA is basically underlining three important developments. First is Ram Janmabhoomi, also 370 and also triple talaq. These three things things are basically just taking the entire campaign. So these three have been the center of the entire campaign, entire speech. Apart from that, also all the issues, especially when it comes to Bihar, we know that number of issues are covered. A wide range of issues are basically covered in political rallies, in from unemployment issue, from migration issue, infrastructure issue, law and order issues, what happened in 15 years back, that is also an issue. And apart from that, the all conventional issue and recent issues like all three farmer related bills, agricultural related bills that were passed by the parliament. So a lot of issues have been in this particular election have been discussed very comprehensively. So it remains to be seen that what happens, how the call has been taken by the people, by the voters. Ultimately, we know that in the democracy, an Aam Aadmi is empowered to elect their candidates. Now coming to other points, that voter turnout, that will be a key attention, because we know that the first phase campaigning will end today. And coming to voter turnout has been a concern for Bihar, because we have seen that in last three assembly elections the voter turnout has not been pretty good, and on an average around 51 to 52% have been the voter turnout. So that is basically a key issue, and the election commissions have worked already, because we know that elections are being held in the view of COVID-19 time. So that is also additional challenges. So election commission and also the administration, they all have foolproof preparations have been made, and they all are trying to ensure.
Yes, Yogesh, can you give us more details of these preparations that you are telling us the election commission has made as far as these elections are concerned, considering that they are going to be held amid the COVID crisis?
Yeah, Munmun, the first thing, the very important thing is the arrangement done for the senior citizens above 80. We have seen that for the senior citizens who are above 80, and also for the Divyangjan, alternate arrangements have been done, and they have been given wallet system to ballot system, in fact, to cast their votes, to ensure that they don't need to go to the polling booth. And also we know that around 30,000 polling booths have been created there. Apart from that, also awareness program in Saharsa district as well as in Katihar districts, and also other districts have been happened. And also the Nukkad Natak, the basically in basically Chowk and Chauraha, these Nukkad Nataks are basically very helpful to gather people, to spread awareness among the people. So that have also been done in different areas. Apart from that, marathon race with following the social distancing and also other norms that have been laid down by the government in view of COVID-19. So these are the basic things that have been done. Apart from that, awareness program, election commission has also given the website link, that is eci.gov.in, for the voters. They can check out their names, whether their names are there. They have been given sufficient time that if their names are missing, then what would be the procedure to get their names back in the list. So on these level, many things have been done. On rural level, basically, you know that in the very first phase, majority of areas, basically the areas which are along with Bihar Jharkhand border, like Gaya district, there are some assembly seats also there. So these areas are basically which are Naxal affected area. The alternate arrangements have also been done. The timing has been changed. 2 hours back the polling booth would be the polling process would be finished there. And also for alternative 1 hour would be given to the people who are suspected to COVID-19. So these are the basic things which have been done to ensure that peaceful election could be conducted in Bihar, because we know that Bihar has not a very good history in terms of voting, and that is one of the reasons that that additional forces have been deployed. BSF is there, SSB is there, apart from CAPs are there,
yes.
State Police is already there. So the entire arrangements, foolproof preparation in view of COVID-19 as well as in view of these law and order situations. So entire broad arrangements have been done on different levels to ensure that the first phase of election could be conducted. And also today is very important, because the first day of campaigning has been started for the third phase also. In JP Nadda, where I am standing right now, the Purnia JP Nadda is going to address a rally in Ranbhoomi ground. So the campaignings are still on. Today also back-to-back rallies have been organized. Many top leaders from across the party, like Smriti Irani, Ravi Kishan also, JP Nadda was the party chief. So, yeah, Munna.
Yes. I was asking you about the spoiler that small parties can play in a closely fought election, and are the big players there wary of that?
Yeah, that's very important. I think in this particular election, we know that NDA and Mahagathbandhan, these are the two main alliances. Now, talking to small parties, like we know that Jitan Ram Manjhi, the former CM of Maharashtra, has also established his party Hindustan Awam Morcha. Apart from that, other small leaders like Upendra Singh Kushwaha, Pappu Yadav, these all are the small leaders. They have formed their parties, and they are also contesting the elections. So definitely it remains to be seen that how they perform, but also they have definitely make the entire election campaign very interesting. As far as major political leaders, VVIP leaders are concerned, Jitan Ram Manji, Uday Narayan Chaudhary, Prem Singh, Anand Singh from Mokama, these are the main leaders where people would be there, all eyes would be there to see what they perform. But yes, it remains to be seen that how small parties make some impact, because we know that sometimes small parties make very important impact, and also sometimes they emerge as kingmaker. So I think it remains to be seen that how happens. But yeah, as far as issues are concerned, the issues are more or less, all the issues have been covered from CA also. CA was also discussed in Munger. Depend on the constituency, which constituency leader are addressing.
Okay.
So the entire,
the stage
a lot
is set, Yogesh, for the first phase of polling that will take place on the 28th, and today campaigning for that has ended. Thank you for those updates. Let's move on now. Counting is underway for the Ladakh Autonomous Hill Development Council-Leh election. Counting of votes began at 9 in the morning at Sindhu Sanskriti Kendra in Leh. A total of 94 candidates of BJP, Congress and Aam Aadmi Party are in the fray for 26 seats of the 6th General Autonomous Hill Development Council of Leh. Polling completed on the 23rd of October, where 65.13% of polls were polled. Ramesh Chandra joins us from Leh for more on this. Ramesh, let's begin with the latest update first. How are the trends looking? What's the outcome so far?
Yeah, so far in the declared results, BJP is clearly leading from the results that was announced so far. Out of 10 declared results, 9 is with the BJP. And total declared seats, 9 is with BJP and 2 are with Congress, and 2 independents have won so far in LAHDC elections declared in Leh.
How significant is this election going to be, Ramesh, if you could explain that to our viewers, for the people of Ladakh?
Yeah, after becoming Union Territory, Ladakh now these hill councils are playing a pivotal role in development of Ladakh region, both in Leh and Kargil districts. If you look at the Leh right now, the hill councils have received a huge budget, unprecedented budget, like 232 crores of budget for developmental activities, which is non-lapsable fund actually. So this gives a boost up for the infrastructure and for education and for otherwise agriculture sector also. These are all developmental activities that will be undertaken by the Leh Hill Council from now. Looking at the other part of Hill Council, that is this Hill Council is given financial empowerment and administrative empowerment also after becoming Union Territory, Ladakh. So these Hill Councils are now about to play a good role as far as development is concerned in these 2 districts. And we know now this panchayats are also established now after for the first time, and BDCs also are now in place. So this shows the grassroots democracy is in place in Ladakh region, and Hill Council is guiding the panchayats and BDCs from now.
Fair enough. We also saw how polling staff managed to reach inaccessible areas when the polling was taking place, which completed on the 23rd of October. Tell us about the grit that you saw in that polling staff, and how enthusiastic are the people of Ladakh really about this election and the outcome as a whole?
Absolutely. This was one of the reasons why elections are very interesting here in Ladakh region. there are still several places which are inaccessible. There are still places where you reach by heli sorties only, especially during this season where winter is setting in now. Certain places are inaccessible. So these places, election authorities in the Leh district have managed all poll staff as per the plan, have reached a day in early to the polling, and these are we have seen visuals where people are doing an adventure trek like. These are the places shows the importance of democracy in country.
Absolutely.
And importance of democracy, especially in bordering places like Ladakh region.
So the people overall are enthusiastic, and so are the polling staff. They're making sure that every voter gets the right to exercise his or her franchise, and that is why they've travelled and trekked, like you've told us, to inaccessible areas. And EVMs, of course, were used for the first time in a Hill Council election. Thank you so much, Ramesh, for having joined us with that update. Slamming the Congress party in a series of tweets, Bharatiya Janata Party's President JP Nadda has attacked Congress leader Rahul Gandhi on UPA government's rule in the past years. Nadda wrote on Twitter, and I quote, "Combination of despondency and shamelessness is dangerous. Congress possesses both. Empty rhetoric of decency and democracy by the mother is complemented by live demonstrations of politics of hate, anger, lies and aggression by the son. Double standards galore. The Rahul Gandhi directed drama of burning PM's effigy in Punjab is shameful but not unexpected. After all, the Nehru-Gandhi dynasty was never respected and it never respected the office of the Prime Minister. This was seen in the institutional weakening of the PM's authority during the UPA years of 2004 and 2014. If there is one party whose conduct reeks of disgust, it is the Congress. Atrocities against SC/ST communities are at an all-time high in Rajasthan." He also tweeted that women are unsafe in Rajasthan as well as in Punjab, and their Punjab ministers are committing scholarship scams. If anyone wants to see a laboratory of usage of brute state power troubling opponents, curbing freedom of speech and trademark Congress style, see the working of the Congress-blessed Maharashtra government. Except governing, they are doing everything else. So those are a series of tweets by BJP President JP Nadda. Let's now move on to our developing story. U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo and Defense Secretary Mark T. Esper are in New Delhi today for the third annual 2+2 Ministerial Dialogue. The meeting is to advance the U.S.-India Comprehensive Global Strategic Partnership and expand cooperation to promote stability and prosperity in the Indo-Pacific and the world with their counterparts. New Delhi and Washington are working to enhance military interaction and cooperation in defense and security with an eye on increased Chinese belligerence in the region. Ahead of their summit with External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar and Defense Minister Rajnath Singh tomorrow, the two officials will be designated for counterterrorism cooperation with the U.S. Pompeo and Esper will also call on Prime Minister Narendra Modi and meet NSA Ajit Doval, apart from attending separate bilateral meetings. So the 2+2 Ministerial Dialogue is set to take place tomorrow, and for that Mike Pompeo, who is the US Secretary of State, as well as Defense Secretary Mark Esper are in New Delhi. On the Indian side, we are aware that Rajnath Singh and External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar will be representing. There would be meetings that the US officials will be having with NSA Ajit Doval as well. They'll also be meeting the Prime Minister. So all eyes are on what really transpires in this third edition of the Indo-US 2+2 dialogue. So let's take a look now at the expectations from this dialogue. First is an important information that this dialogue is going to be held tomorrow, that is on the 27th of October. What's more to expect? Indian side to be represented by External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar and Defense Minister Rajnath Singh. So this is representation from the Indian side. We'll tell you now about the representation from the US side, where US Secretary of State Mike Pompeo and Defense Secretary Mark Esper, who are now in India, will be representing. Having said that, the MEA did say last week that talks will be held and they will be entailing discussion on cross-cutting bilateral issues, regional and global developments. So regional global developments and bilateral issues are going to figure in the talks. All eyes are on whether long-pending BECA, which is a Basic Exchange and Cooperation Agreement, will be finalized or not. We'll ask our reporter in some time, why is this going to be important from a strategic and a security point of view? Well, BECA is set to provide for sharing of high-end military technology, logistics and geospatial maps. And how is that going to pan out? We'll talk about that in a bit. BECA, all eyes are on whether this is going to be signed. Indo-US defense ties have been on an upswing in the last few years. We are aware. We'll tell you how next. And you'd remember that in June 2016, US designated India as a major defense partner. That designation was important. From the point of view of the growing India-US strategic cooperation. Designation elevated defense trade and technology sharing with India to a level similar to US's closest allies and partners. And that is why that designation of a major defense partner that US gave to India is extremely significant. In 2016, India and US inked Logistics Exchange Memorandum of Agreement. So LEMOA was signed in 2016. Now all eyes are on whether BECA, BECA will be signed between the two sides. LEMOA had allowed militaries of the US and India to use each other's bases for repair and replenishment of supplies. So this is how LEMOA is changing the dynamics as far as strategic and security cooperation between India and US is concerned. In 2018, India and the US signed COMCASA, which is Communications Compatibility and Security Agreement. So LEMOA has been signed as well as COMCASA have been signed. COMCASA provides for interoperability between the two militaries and sale of high-end tech from US to India. So this agreement has been signed. First 2+2 Ministerial Dialogue was held in New Delhi in September 2018. This was the inaugural edition of this 2+2 dialogue, which had taken place in New Delhi. What had happened during that dialogue? Well, India and the US committed to creation of a new tri-services exercise, and that tri-services exercise was later called Tiger Triumph, and that took place in 2019. In the first dialogue, India and the US announced intent to increase information sharing on known or suspected terrorists. This is one realm that both sides have cooperated very, very closely, and an affirmation was made after the first 2+2 dialogue as well. Second 2+2 Ministerial Dialogue was held in Washington in 2019, and now the third one is being hosted in India. What happened in the second edition of the dialogue? Well, in the second edition, priority initiatives were identified for execution under Defense Technology and Trade Initiative, which is also called DTTI, under which collaboration is taking place between private defense industries in India and private defense industries in the United States. So those were the takeaways from the first two meetings of 2+2 between India and the US. Now all eyes on the third meeting that is set to take place tomorrow, for which US officials are in India. Our correspondent Abhishek Jais joining us with more details on this. Abhishek, before we come to the specifics of the expectation from this 2+2 Ministerial Dialogue meeting, I want you to talk about the current context that in which this meeting is taking place, considering that the US presidential election is just 1 week from now. US President Donald Trump has made his tough stance on China as a key election plank. Besides that, the Quad foreign ministers had met, where Mike Pompeo was present. So was our External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar, and of course the foreign ministers of the two other countries, Japan as well as Australia, was there. And the Malabar exercise is going to be held soon. Then there is border tension which is continuing between India and China. So given the context, what did you make of this visit, not just in the 2+2 context, but in a bigger context?
Okay. So Munmun, when the same question has been asked with the US officials, so they said that though there is this election year in US is happening, but then these diplomatic missions and diplomatic engagements have been planned very early, and these calendars are very much independent from what happens in the polls or elections in the US. Nevertheless, US President Donald Trump has made China and its aggressive stances across the globe and its increasing influence in the global platform, and how it is hampering or curtailing US commercial interests and strategic interests across the globe at various levels, key electoral issues. So somehow this whole US election and this anti-China rhetorics that we can say in political manner has been continuously one of the key agenda in US politics. Second has been recently we know that four foreign ministers have met in Tokyo, where apart from other strategic and supply chain issues that they discussed. Indo-Pacific was one of the issues that how to contain growing influence and assertiveness of China in that region, and also how to ensure that all the region in this Indo-Pacific country can have free, fair, and transparent access to South China Sea, which China has started claiming almost entire of the South China Sea as its own territory, and the disputes of its territorial sovereignty has been with so many countries, including Indonesia, where Mike Pompeo is also slated to go from India. So these are the major issues like Indo-Pacific, and then India's growing tension at the northern borders with China. For months, there has been this stalemate, and US has been siding with India and saying that China's aggressive stance is something that everybody in the world should care for. And India, which has been so far a peace-loving country, has been trying to defend its sovereignty. And in a way, India has been able to lobby the diplomatic community around the globe in a manner where China has been portrayed in one country which is for unnecessary reason trying to posture aggressively against India and against all its neighborhood. So this meeting is happening in this background, and one can see that while these four ministers will be sitting together, the LSE issue and India-China issue will be certainly one of the key topic for discussion, because the US-India bilateral relationship is something that is strategic in nature. Defense dependence of both the country are very much significant in this time, and this is
Yes,
one of the key area of concern for India, and the topic is going to come up for the discussion also.
So LAMOA and COMCASA were signed earlier. Now all eyes are on whether BECA would be finalized. Why is this agreement important in the strategic and security context, particularly the part which focuses on geospatial information sharing?
So, Munmun, we have seen the growing influence or the growing role of intelligence input in any defense or strategic planning or maneuvering in the recent time, in the past few decades, including when US had fought the Taliban or other militias in the various regions of the globe. We are seeing how this cyber world or the intelligence information sharing has become a crucial part of strategic cooperation. And when India and USA are able to sign this BECA basic agreement for India will have access to so many US intelligence information coming directly from US satellites in the space. That will be very helpful in planning India's defense along the LSE or along the line of control, or having in other aspects also. This is very crucial. Last time we have seen that COMCASA was signed between India and USA, which ensured the interoperability of both defense equipments of US and India. And this time the interoperability will be in information sharing. This is one of the crucial things that one can hope will be the key outcome of this meeting between the four ministers.
Absolutely. And from India, Mike Pompeo would be going to Sri Lanka, Maldives, and will be ending his trip in Indonesia. All that is going to be extremely important in the Indo-Pacific context. Thank you, Abhishek. That's all the time that we have for this. Moving on to National Prime segment. Prime Minister Narendra Modi will today inaugurate the India Energy Forum. India Energy Forum by CERAWeek, now in its fourth year, is hosted by IHS Markit, a world leader in critical information analytics and solutions. The event will convene an international group of speakers and a community of over 1,000 delegates from India and over 30 countries, including from regional energy companies, energy-related industries, institutions and governments. The event's speakers include energy ministers, senior industry executives and leading national and international energy experts. Key topics to be explored during India Energy Forum include impact of the pandemic on India's future, energy demand, securing supplies for India's economic growth, what does energy transition and the climate agenda mean for India, natural gas in India's energy mix, what's the path, refining and petrochemicals, strategies amidst surplus, the pace of innovation, biofuel, hydrogen, CCS, electric vehicles and digital transformation, and market and regulatory reform. What's ahead? The Prime Minister will also interact with CEOs of leading global oil and gas companies in the annual event organized by Niti Aayog and Ministry of Petroleum and Natural Gas via video conferencing. Around 45 global CEOs and key stakeholders will interact and discuss the issues and opportunities with the Prime Minister. India is an important player in the global oil and gas sector, being the third largest consumer of crude oil and the fourth largest LNG importer. Realizing the need for India to graduate from a passive consumer to an active and vocal stakeholder in the global oil and gas value chain, Niti Aayog initiated the first roundtable of global oil and gas CEOs with Prime Minister of India in 2016. And now an update on the COVID-19 situation from across the country. India has crossed landmark milestones in its fight against COVID-19. The active case load of the country has again fallen below the 7 lakh mark. The total number of active cases stand at 6,53,717. India is also reporting a high number of recoveries. The total recovered cases have crossed 71 lakh mark. 59,105 patients have recovered and have been discharged in the last 24 hours. The national recovery rate has touched 90.23%, while the case fatality rate stands at 1.5%. India's case fatality rate is the lowest since the 22nd of March. Less than 500 deaths have been reported in the last 24 hours. The Indian Council of Medical Research, which is the apex body at the forefront of formulating COVID-19 testing strategy in India, has reached an average testing of more than 10 lakhs per day in the last 17 days. Till now, a total of 10 crore 34 lakh 62,778 samples have been tested for COVID-19. As on the 25th of October, 9 lakh 39,309 samples were tested. As pollution level in Delhi NCR region has further deteriorated, air quality index in Delhi in severe, very poor category in several locations. Speaking on the decline in AQI, ADG of the Met Department, Anand Sharma, has said that AQI value of PM10 is in poor category. There might be a slight decrease, but it will remain in poor category. PM2.5 concentration is around 200. There might be a still slight decrease, but it falls under very poor category.
If you talk about Delhi, so our AQI value of PM10 is in the poor category. It's around 300, and it's slightly there could be decrease, but it will remain in the poor category. While PM2.5 concentration is around 200, and again it is slightly likely to like decrease about 170 around that, but it falls under very poor category.
So not much to cheer there as far as the PM2.5 as well as PM10 levels are concerned. Remember, stubble burning has been a major cause of concern, and the issue is also in the Supreme Court. We are also aware that there are also local factors that are responsible for rising pollution levels in Delhi NCR. The weather, of course, is only adding to the problem, because in the cold weather we know that pollutants get trapped, there's less of breeze, and so all these regional as well as local factors are contributing to what are concerning levels of pollution, be it PM10 or PM2.5. Well, now time for all the business news in Midday Prime. And my colleague Ajay joins us with all the latest business updates. Ajay, if you can hear me, please do tell us what's making news in the world of business.
I can hear you. So a bit of audio problem out there, but I think the biggest news from the business point of view out here is the big fall in the markets. Right now, if you see that the Sensex and Nifty has fallen down by more than 1.5%, and that is the big a big shocker at the start of the week when we see that the markets had opened very, very flat in the morning trade. But after the news came in for Reliance that Amazon has won an arbitration against the Reliance in for an investment in the future group, the stock has actually gone down by 2%, more than 2%, and the metal stocks also have a bearing on the market right now. So we can see that the markets are currently trading into deep red, and the contraction is likely to extend for a few more hours during the day trade. Experts are believing that it's not the right time for investment in the market, because the market might be range bound going ahead from here. Auto numbers are looking very, very bleak because the auto industry was expecting much more demand from this festive season, which they have not actually received in the market. So that's another negative point when it comes to markets. The cases in the US are going up when it comes to coronavirus cases, and that's also a reason for a sluggish demand into the Asian markets as well as in the European market, and that is also bearing on the Indian market. So we have seen a very, very bad start as far as the stock markets are concerned here in India also. My second news point is is linked to the prices of gold and silver. Gold and silver has actually started declining since few weeks from now. And now the gold is trading around 50,600 rupees per 10 grams in the Indian market, and these are the future prices. And the silver is also down by 1.3%. So the gold and silver market is going to be more down from here. The experts are believing that we should wait for more correction if we are really trying to or waiting for buying into the bullion market. So I think one has to wait till Diwali to see the level of 48,000, 49,000 as far as the gold is concerned. So that's a mix of bad news and good news for the investors out here on the very first day of this week into the financial market.
Well, thank you, Ajay, for those updates. And let's now take a look at what's making news across the globe. Let's now take an update on the COVID-19 pandemic from across the world. As of now, more than 4 crore 33 lakh coronavirus cases have been reported worldwide, with over 10 lakh 59,000 deaths. Over 3 crore 19 lakh people have recovered from the virus. The US continues to top the list among worst hit countries by the pandemic with the highest number of infections. The US has over 88 lakh 89,000 cases of coronavirus, with a death toll surging past 2 lakh 30,000. US continues to witness a surge in COVID cases as more than 60,000 cases have been reported yesterday. The worst current outbreak in the country are in the north and Midwest, and some 35 of the 50 states are seeing an increase in case numbers. The coronavirus pandemic has killed over 2.3 lakh people in the US and thrown millions out of work. The number of deaths over 24 hours has remained broadly stable since the beginning of autumn, with 446 deaths recorded yesterday. Well, it's interesting to note that almost half of the new cases worldwide reported last week were in WHO's Europe region. So Europe is making news for the wrong reasons. A second wave of COVID-19 is sweeping the region. Total coronavirus cases in Italy. Look at the graph. The 15th of February it starts, and then there's a curve going up, and then it plateaus, and then it further goes up. The last number being of October 22nd. So which is the second spike that we are seeing. The second spike is much bigger than the first spike. These are the total coronavirus cases in Italy, far more than what they were first time around. And there's more news from Italy. These are daily new cases in Italy. This is how the graph looks like. You see the first wave there, and then it goes down, and then it comes up to very, very high levels. On October 19th, the level is the highest. Then total coronavirus cases in France. France has adopted various restrictions in the last fortnight or so. And now take a look at the wave. There was a first wave around the April of 10th and April 21st. And look at the spike of cases going way up on the 25th of October. So this is the situation as far as total coronavirus cases in France is concerned, the second wave being far worse than the first. Daily new cases in France. In France, these were the daily new cases where you hardly saw some numbers around the 16th of May. And now look at these crests and troughs, these bars going up. On October 19th, the bar has been the highest. This is the situation since the 15th of February. In the UK, the total cases in the UK are like this. You see a first spike around the 13th of May, and now the second spike being seen on the 25th of October. So UK too has been very badly affected as far as the second wave is concerned. These are the daily new cases. So these crests and troughs you see, a first wave and the peak coming around the 20th of April and the 7th of April. And then the cases went down. You can see this in this graph. And then the cases went up on the 19th of October. That's the highest peak in a long, long time. Total coronavirus cases in Spain on the 21st of April or the 2nd of May, there was a plateauing that had settled by then, and then the wave on the 29th of July went up, and from there it's only gone northwards. Daily new cases in Spain. Well, on the 12th of March, you will see that there was the highest peak as far as the first wave is concerned, and then the numbers went down around the 11th of July. There were hardly any numbers as far as daily new cases are concerned, and the number has now gone way up on the 19th of October. Now, cases in Germany. Well, Germany, the second wave was around March 16th, and the number started going up, and then there was a plateau that was reached, and then on the 22nd of October, look at the peak where it has reached. Well, you remember that Germany has been lauded for the way it's handled the first wave of infections, but remains to be seen how it will handle the second wave. Daily new cases in Germany, again a peak around the March of 12th and the March of 25th, and then a slide, and then again the graph goes upwards. Is the worst on the 19th of October. So this is the situation as far as at least 5 countries in Europe are concerned, which are among the worst affected. Meanwhile, US infectious disease expert Anthony Fauci has said that it would be clear whether a COVID-19 vaccine was safe and effective by early December. He, however, added that any significant distribution to the wider population would not be likely until later in 2021. Fauci's statement came after US President Donald Trump, during the final presidential debate, said that a vaccine would be available to the people of America by the end of the year. American e-commerce giant Amazon got a favorable ruling in Singapore with regard to the future RIL deal. A Singapore arbitration panel restrained Future Group and Reliance Industries Limited from proceeding with the $3.38 billion deal signed in August. According to the deal, Future Retail had to sell its retail, wholesale, logistics and warehousing units to Reliance Retail and Fashion Style. The order, issued by an emergency arbitrator of Singapore International Arbitration Centre, will be valid for the next 90 days until an official arbitration panel is appointed. A one-man arbitration panel heard the plea of Amazon and Future Group last week. In a statement following the order, Amazon said it is grateful for the order, which grants all the relief that was sought. However, Reliance Retail Ventures Limited said in a statement that it intends to complete the transaction under the terms of the agreement with the Future Group without any delay. In more international news, the US State Department announced on Sunday that Armenia and Azerbaijan have agreed to a humanitarian ceasefire to begin at 8 a.m. today in the disputed separatist enclave of Nagorno-Karabakh, even as fresh fighting erupted between the two sides who blame each other for the failure of previous truces. According to the US State Department, this announcement, presented as a joint statement, comes after the US facilitated intense negotiations between Armenia and Azerbaijan's foreign ministers. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo hosted the country's top diplomats in Washington on Friday, congratulating the Armenian PM on the move. US President Donald Trump said many lives would be saved as Armenian Prime Minister Nikol Pashinyan and Azerbaijani President Ilham Aliyev agreed to adhere to a ceasefire. Venezuelans took part in an electoral drill, in fact, on a Sunday before a controversial parliamentary vote on the 6th of December. The country's National Electoral Council organized a rehearsal where about 20 million people were invited to take part in the drill. Electoral authorities said that more than 381 polling stations opened nationwide for the mock vote. Voters said that the voting was fast and smooth in the streets of Caracas. Venezuela's main opposition parties have pledged to boycott legislative elections, saying they will be rigged by the ruling Socialist Party. The Bangladesh government has decided that no service will be provided to people who don't wear masks. The cabinet meeting chaired by Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina decided that no one will be allowed to enter offices without masks, and all offices must install notice boards saying no mask, no service to control the spread of COVID-19. Involving community leaders in the campaign to wear masks, Cabinet Secretary said that the government has also talked to Islamic scholars and religious leaders to publicize this at all mosques through the imams. With 23 death toll in the country due to COVID-19 has gone up to 5,803. The total number of people infected by coronavirus has also gone up to 3,98,850. And it's time for all the news from the world of sports. My colleague Narayan joins us with all the sports buzz.
Thanks, Mukund. Let's get started with the big news coming from the Formula One world. Awesome Lewis Hamilton battles back from crazy start to dominate the Formula One and surpass Michael Schumacher to set new record for most race victories in F1 history. Lewis Hamilton has become Formula One's record all-time race winner with a dominant 90-second career victory. He finished 25.592 seconds ahead of second-place teammate Valtteri Bottas on Sunday and 34.5 seconds clear of Red Bull's Max Verstappen for his 8th win of the season. Hamilton had equal Ferrari great Michael Schumacher's record of 91 wins at the previous race. He also took an extra point on Sunday for the fastest lap, extended his huge championship lead to 77 points over Bottas. With just 5 races left in the coronavirus-affected season, Hamilton is within reach of equaling Schumacher's record of winning 7 championships. Moving to football, Leicester secured a first away league win at Arsenal in 47 years as Jamie Vardy once again proved to be the scourge for the Gunners. The Foxes travelled to Emirates Stadium with a game plan which they played out to perfection, soaking up plenty of Arsenal pressure before introducing fit again Vardy from the bench to do damage and secure 1-0 win. Vardy had missed the last 2 games with a calf injury but was match winner here, scoring his 11th Premier League goal against Arsenal, with only Wayne Rooney able to score more. This was Leicester's 4th victory in the Premier League this season, their joint highest after 6 games of a top-flight campaign. In another EPL match, Everton's unbeaten start to the Premier League season came to an end as they finished with 10 men in a 2-0 defeat at Southampton. The visitors struggled to get going as Southampton were clinical, taking 2-goal lead inside the first half. Skipper James Ward-Prowse fired Southampton into lead in the 27th minute. 7 minutes later, Che Adams doubled the lead for Everton with the help of a deflection. Everton's defeat means this is the first English top-flight campaign since 1967-68 in which no sides are unbeaten through the first 6 matches. Former Brazil striker Ronaldinho has tested positive for the COVID-19. The ex-Barcelona and Paris Saint-Germain player was in Belo Horizonte, where he played local side Atlético Mineiro when he got his diagnosis. The two-time FIFA World Player of the Year shared on Instagram post that he is good and has no symptoms. Ronaldinho is self-isolating himself and would remain in a hotel until his condition improved. That's all from the sporting world. Back to you, Manu.
Thanks, Narayan, for that. And now it's time for our next segment, Live Prime, where we bring you stories from the world of art, culture, cinema, fashion, science and innovation. Stories that are bringing smiles, stories that are changing lives. In Finland, large swaths of colourful lights lit up the sky over northern Lapland. The streaks of green, white and purple colours shone through a layer of cloud covering north of the Arctic Circle and village of Utsjoe. The northern lights, also known as aurora borealis, are the result of collisions between the Earth's gaseous particles and the matter released by the Sun's atmosphere. American singer and songwriter Ariana Grande posted a list of song tracks of her upcoming music album featuring single positions. The album is scheduled for the 30th of October release. The music video envisages life in the White House, in which video the American singer-songwriter imagines herself as a very glamorous president. So fantasies galore around the White House. With that, we come into the close of this edition of Midday Prime. News and updates will continue on DD News and DD India.